Hello, BillWhittle.com members. I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is your member-supported lightning round. Once the exclusive province of our members, they decided to inflict it on all of you for reasons I'll never understand because I'm not that much of a sadist. I am, however, having difficulty speaking today because I only had 2 cups of coffee, and clearly that's not enough. All that aside, let's dig in deep with a selection of headlines that have been selected in secrecy before I inflict upon Bill and Scott. And Scott, according to my notes, we're starting with you this week. Democratic Congress critter Ayana Pressley, the cancel rent advocate.
What could go wrong?
Is that the Broadway show Rent?
Oh, no. They finally killed off
Because I signed that petition.
But I think Rent is still going. Where the hell was I? I love losing control of this show. Oh, yes, cancel Rent. She wanted all rent and mortgage payments suspended for the duration of the emergency and, magic money. That'll pay for it. So the cancel Rent advocate, she just disclosed thousands of dollars in rental income. Fox News says that her 2020 financial disclosure filed on Friday disclosed between $5,000 and $15,000 in rental income from a Boston property in her husband's name. And this is a real kicker. It was no accident. The property was converted into a multifamily apartment after it was purchased, according to her own disclosure. I don't even know what to do with the hypocrisy anymore. Do you?
I think it's okay to cancel rent, but if you cancel rent, then you have to cancel mortgage payments to the bank. And if you cancel mortgage payments to the bank, then you have to cancel dividends to shareholders of the bank. And it just kind of keeps tumbling on from there. It's funny when you hear discussion about this, it's like people have no idea that an economy is an interlocked system of relationships. And they just think you can just stop one relationship and everything will be fine. Just don't pay your rent. Well, a lot of rentals in this country, and I don't know the exact figure, but I would guess it's a majority of the rental properties in this country are owned by relatively small business people who have one or a handful of rental houses or units that they rent out. Well, those people are leveraged in those rental properties. That means that they have borrowed the money that they have to pay back to someone, usually a bank. Not always, but usually a bank. So they don't get rent. They no longer have the money to pay the bank. And the bank then wants to foreclose on that property. And guess who loses in that situation? The landlord and the renter, because they've lost the place that they were going to live. And then somebody swoops in, and buys it up for cheap and then rents it out to somebody else who then doesn't want to pay their rent. So this vicious cycle is something that it just doesn't seem like people like Elvis Presley here, or what was her name again? The first name?
Ayana Pressley.
Thank you. Ayana Pressley. I thought there'd been a sighting. It doesn't seem like a lot of folks in politics have a grasp of the interconnectedness of an economy. And so they make these things statements that sound good on the surface. It's like, well, everybody should be paid a lot more. Oh yeah, well, I want to be paid a lot more. Let's have me get paid a lot more. Where did that money come from? Well, we sell things at the place that I work at, so we're going to have to charge a lot more. Oh, that means that the people who are being charged a lot more, we're going to need to earn a lot more themselves, so their employer is going to have to pay them a lot more. And the only one who benefits from all this is the government, who of course will raise taxes so that they can derive a lot more income from all the ever escalating prices. It just doesn't work. And I think that should be the pitch for conservatives to talk to like normal people, is just saying, look, I don't want to get into whether we should hate people who think this way or ridicule people who think this way. It's just like, do you want an iPhone that works? There are certain principles you must follow for that iPhone to work. When you press that button, some specific sequence of events has to happen in order for that screen to light up and for you to be able to launch an app and do what you want. An economy is the same way. And you can't just say, hey, let's start cutting wires and see if I can still get the iPhone to work.
Yeah, although you reminded me of something I haven't thought of in weeks or months maybe. Elvis is everywhere. Elvis is everything. Do you know the reference?
I don't.
Elvis is everybody. Elvis is still the king. Mojo Nixon. 12 years we've been doing this show. I think that's our first Mojo Nixon reference.
I believe so.
All right, Bill. Oh, I didn't want to bring this up, but I'm going to have to. Intelligence reports on Afghanistan over the summer were increasingly grim, officials said, despite President Biden's public assurances. And I snagged that headline from the New York Times. It's one of those cluster that is too big for the Times to paper over, isn't it?
Yeah, my segment this week is on the thing that's too big to cover over. And also I have I'm moving back to America on this and maybe how to fix it. Well, hypothetically, because in order to fix it, you'd have to have, people who knew what they were doing trying to fix the machine that's broken rather than the people that broke the machine continuing to run the machine that's broken. I don't even know where to start with this. But just to address the specific point of your specific lightning round issue, I just, before we started taping, I saw a segment on Sky News Australia, which is the best reporting on American news and apparently the only reporting on the situation in America that can actually be trusted. But basically they said that this cluster love fest in Afghanistan is too big for even CNN to cover up. Not to cover up. You cannot lose an entire country, and under the circumstances under which this has happened, the news media is in the business of covering up news stories that don't reflect well on progressives. But when you have that kind of footage, you ultimately are an entertainment company, and you have to run footage like that. You can't not run it. When you have footage like the footage of the C-17 plowing through hundreds of people on the ground, if you don't run it, somebody else is going to, and everything else follows from there. You can cover up the Hunter Biden laptop story because aside from a few skeevy pictures, you can throw the cloak of invisibility over something like that. It's a laptop. Something like this doesn't just go away. Other countries are talking about this too, as it turns out. So yeah, there's a lot to say about this, and we'll say more about it on my segment this week on Red Angle.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to that. But that New York Times headline was so grabbing that I had to bring it up in the lightning round because that's I was not expecting. It's a sign of how bad do things have to be in order for the New York Times to criticize a Democrat as president.
And
yeah,
Steve,
exactly.
I looked at that story as well, and I think the upshot of it was not that the critique is not that President Biden is pulling U.S. troops out of Afghanistan. That was something that began during the Trump administration, intentional, and so it's not some new policy. The problem was the assumption that somehow you could do that without making the contingency plans to, for example, secure the airport, and a variety of other things. If as the president said during his news conference, that you're dealing with a corrupt government that basically is stealing the money that we were pumping in there to try to help, you've got that level of corruption, then you have to plan out every little step. And nobody's better at planning things than the U.S. military. Let them do their job. Let them make the security provisions. Let them plan for the contingency of, what happens if it's not 30 to 90 days, but it's 3 days, and all
30
of a sudden,
to 90 hours.
They're in Kabul. How do you deal with that sudden need? Have they not seen the picture of the last helicopter out of Saigon?
That picture's on all their walls. They get down and kowtow to that picture. Yeah. But I will say, by the way, that the same president who said, no, nothing to worry about, Afghans got all these incredibly well-trained troops, plus they've got their own air force. This is the same guy who would not allow contractors into Afghanistan to do service on the airplanes that the Afghans owned as an air force. So if you can't service the airplanes that you're using as your air force to defend this country that you're supposed to be defending, then you have to start asking yourself, is anybody in this government talking to anybody else? And I did that on purpose.
Yeah, apparently not. I've been ready to get out of Afghanistan since about 2003 or 4. I was super ready after we got Osama bin Laden in 2012. I've just been wondering this whole time why we haven't left. What I didn't wonder was that if anybody could screw up the exit this badly, and now we know. Scott, over to you. Investigation finds ex-Tennessee vaccine official bought the threatening package that was sent to her home. An investigation into a dog muzzle allegedly mailed to a former vaccine manager's Tennessee home as a form of intimidation was closed Monday after it was revealed that the muzzle was purchased with her own credit card, according to the Post-Millennial.
Again.
I know it's human nature to want to be the star of your own show. I know victimhood is a status symbol now. But after so many stories of all of these people getting caught with these fake hate crimes, don't you think it would have cut it out by now, Scott?
I'm just wondering, is it possible that she ordered the muzzle and then sold the dog before the muzzle got there, and then the muzzle gets there and she's like, what is this muzzle doing here? I don't have a dog.
It does sound like the kind of intellect you would want to put in charge of vaccinations for an entire state.
Yeah.
You know, I never get this, these people who want to portray themselves as victims. And, you know, we've done a number of shows on this over the course of the years. And it just doesn't make any sense to me because there are enough like genuine people who are being harassed and antagonized in the world that you don't need to make up new ones. And when this became a badge of honor, for example, like if somebody did that to me or was trying to intimidate me, the last thing in the world I'd want to do is come out and make a public statement and go, oh, somebody mailed me a dog muzzle. You know, right. It's like if that had really happened, which it didn't apparently, but if that had really happened, I'm not going to go bragging about how people are bullying me or trying to intimidate me or scaring me or my family. Like, why would I make a big story out of that? But this is even worse because it didn't happen. And what you're trying to do is somehow, like she had to have the creative mind because nobody on the other side did this. She had to go, ooh, what would be a good way to intimidate me? I know what would shake me up. A dog muzzle in the mail. I'm going to send it to myself.
Can we not go a little further with this and understand that this person who is in charge of with real responsibility over other people's lives has not only got the lack of character to want to create this false hate crime, but doesn't have the IQ to even pay cash for something like this? I mean, seriously, if it were me, I would have somebody who I barely knew buy it in cash in another state and drive it to me or something. You know, I mean, how stupid, just how low IQ do you have to be to conceive of a master crime like this, which you know is going to cause an investigation because that's why you're publicizing it. And then you find out, oh no, it's on your credit card. Oh, that was the one small detail that my Moriarty-like criminal mastermind slipped through the cracks. You know?
It's like that scene from National Treasure where Nicolas Cage pays for the copy of the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence in the gift shop with his credit card. Or his dad's credit card. And he's like, and his sidekick goes, "You're on the grid now."
Bill, to answer your question about how stupid do you have to be, I can answer out one word: Democrat. All right, Bill, we're going to wrap up with you. University of Michigan professor says math and science classes are racist. And I've heard this stuff, this nonsense brewing for the last couple of years now. And you usually get it from one of these PhDs in education or, you know, doctor of studies and things that are not quite fair, that sort of thing. But as it turns out, Deborah Ball is a mathematics professor who argued in her podcast that mathematics inflicts racism against Black and Latino students. Have you ever heard a more racist statement in your whole life?
No, this is extremely easy to understand. Anybody who says that math is racist against Blacks and Latinos is somebody who says that Blacks and Latinos are not smart enough to do math. Yeah. Period.
End of statement. There you go. All right. Oh, I forgot. I've got one for me, too. Chinese regime, that's the CCP, the Communist Party of China, Chinese Communist Party. Wow. I'm telling you, I needed that third cup of coffee. I'm going to get it after this segment. The CCP takes a financial stake in TikTok, now directly linked to Facebook fact-checker lead stories. Swear to you.
Imagine.
Business records reveal the CCP has retained a stake and a new board seat in TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, which in turn funds Facebook's fact-checking partner Lead Stories. So the next time you as a conservative or a libertarian or a liberty lover or somebody who just doesn't like, brutal commie bastards like those guys in Beijing, I'm not talking about our fine freedom-loving friends in the Republic of China, in Taiwan, by the way. But if you just don't happen to like those commie bastards in Beijing and you try to post something on Facebook and your account is suspended or your post is deleted or all of the above, well, now you know why. And that's your lightning round. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.